I'm Erica Lynn, and we all know the ocean is the most demanding environment on Earth, consistently testing the reliability and durability of our equipment. When you spend as much time fishing as I do, you know that reliable gear is essential for staying on the water. This is why I went with the Abyss battery to power my trolling motor, electronics, and outboard. The guys at Abyss Battery are rattling the saltwater industry by manufacturing performance marine batteries specifically designed for sonar, outboards, trolling motors, and electronic fishing reels. They're also Bluetooth compatible, so I found checking battery statuses right on your phone while you're out on the water is a huge game changer. To learn more about why Abyss batteries are used by the pros and factory installed by premier boat builders, visit abyssbattery.com.
Hello and welcome to the Publicly Challenged Podcast. I'm your host, Luke Oswald, and I hope you join me on my quest for knowledge to become a better public land hunter, angler, and forager. Stick with this and who knows, maybe we will learn something together. All right, so I'm sitting here and we're in Wisconsin right now, and talking with Brandon Waddell and Philip Kirsch Targets, and Brandon Mountain Archery Festival, and they're putting together some amazing targets for a Pope and Young course. Brandon, go ahead. Why don't you talk about it a little bit?
Yeah, well, let me rewind. We are at the Kirsch World Headquarters. We're in the auxiliary trophy room, hanging out. I appreciate you coming up. Mountain Archery Fest we're in our second year and we're getting rolling, and luckily we're going to get to have our 4 events this year in Idaho, New Mexico, and Utah, and Colorado, but a little to be more specific, we've got a course specifically why we're here in Wisconsin, why I'm here. We also have another guest that'll jump on here in a minute, George, and but we're here because of an idea I had one night that I wanted to create the Pope and Young North American 29 World Record course. And, it's a thought that I had after building a relationship here with Philip, and something that I gave some thought to, and thought that in order to bring a different light to educating people about species, about Pope and Young, the club, and it's not just an elitist club. That Pope and Young, if you're an archer, I just think you should be a member of Pope and Young. I think without Pope and Young as being one of our only national representatives of archery, that's super important. I think you should do something on a local level with your local shooting club. I think you should belong to your state shooting organization, and I think you should be a part of Pope and Young if you're a diehard archer. And I think that creating this course in my head, I wanted to really make a course that really was an educational course that people could come out and shoot and see the best representatives of the most mature animal that is the world record in Pope and Young for that species in the 29 North American Slam, right? So I really didn't know how to do it. And I kind of talked to Philip and was like, Philip, I got this idea. What do you think how can we do this? And he was like, I don't know. This is Philip's line. I don't know. Let me think about that. Philip likes to think about things, but he never comes back with a dumb answer. Like, he always comes back with the most educated answer you can imagine. And so, then we started thinking about, I'm like, there's got to be a way we can make these antlers. And we talked about, how we can make them out of foam, or maybe we can do this and we can do that. Remember our early conversations, Philip, when we were trying to, you were like, well, what do you mean? You want to do foam? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. Can we do that? And you're like, I don't think that, I don't know about that.
It's going to be representative. It's going to give the respect to the animals that it should.
Right.
Yeah.
And so then we,
there's always a way, though. There's always a way, and maybe a way to do it better.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we don't have that figured out. I mean, we've had a lot of lessons learned in the last 4 days of doing this building this course, right?
The lessons, over and over and over. Yeah.
But in the end, Philip recommended a guy. It was Antlers by Klaus.
Yeah. I mean, it was research. Yeah, we started searching down who does replications, who's a professional at this, and then who's the best at it. So we started researching that. Found a couple guys in the U.S. that loves to acquire antlers and the biggest and baddest antlers out there, and started checking references and talked to the Pope and Young. We said, who do you guys know that is great at antlers? They said, yeah, Antlers by Klaus. You got to talk to Klaus. Talk to Klaus. Okay, let's search down this guy Klaus, and he was great. He's like, wow. We explained the concept to him, and he's like, hey, yeah, I think I can do that. And we looked at his work and we thought, wow, man, those look like real antlers. Those you know.
It's mind-boggling.
Yeah, I pulled up in the driveway and I see just 3D targets strewn all over the place. And my first thought, besides even looking at the antlers, was, holy cow, those cursed targets, man. They look real, ultra realistic compared to your average 3D target.
Yep.
And then I come up and I see these giant elk racks laying on the lawn. And then I look over and I see some giant moose paddles. And I touch them. And I mean, they feel real. Mm-hmm. It's like, I mean, the detail in them is ultra realistic. And I'm blown away. But so I saw you posted a few things on Instagram and I messaged you and I'm like, dude, if I don't get out to like Colorado to go shoot Mountain Archery Fest, I might not see that this year and I have to see these targets. So I came up and I'm blown away. I'm truly blown away by what's gone into this, how you guys are doing it. George over there foaming left and right doing all these targets. It's pretty interesting to see. And I think that what you guys are doing is amazing, but the fact of how realistic it is, I mean, people are going to be blown away by it, for sure.
Yeah, we sure hope so. I mean, even when I got up to Klaus's shop and Philip had sent me a picture, and he told me, this picture doesn't do justice. And I was like, yeah, I'm sure. Right. I mean, I had an idea, but when I walked in there and looked at those things and started hanging them in this trailer for transportation, I was literally blown away. I mean, when I was I thought they'd be a little lighter. We all kind of thought that in some fashion, but because he said he would make them lighter than the real thing. And so, good Lord, I'd hate to know what those Rocky Bighorn actually weigh if this is lighter than the real thing. Yeah, you know, we strove to give the best representation we can of this animal, from the foam all the way through the mounting, all the way to the antlers made by Klaus. You know, there were hundreds of hours put into conversations between me and Philip and George, and then me and George, but I'll be honest. I mean, I had a great vision. But I had, you know, without Philip trusting in me last year and helping get me the targets when I needed them and give me some time to pay him for them, you know, because things didn't work out as well as we thought they were going to be last year on the events, because we had epic snowfall in Utah and Colorado, so we had to move both events, and it hurt our registration some. You know, I asked Philip, do you think you can help me with that? Do you think you can help me with this? And he was like, yeah, let me think about that. And he came back and said, yeah, I think I can invest some time in this. I like where you're going with this. I want to be a part of it. And so, you know, as we got a little bit further in, I mean, he took a lot on his shoulders. Helping me. I mean, we had to bring in he found me a musk ox in Italy. We had to fly that musk ox in from Italy.
Out of Milan, Italy. Across the Atlantic Ocean.
Yep.
To the U.S., to Wisconsin.
Yep.
And soon to be onward to the Rockies.
To the Rockies, yeah. You know, and then he's done a lot to help me get to this point. And then, you know, we all discussed a lot of design options and different things we were going to do with it to try to make this come to life. But it's been interesting week. When we were going to do this we just talked about this last night. We were initially supposed to do this in April, right? April was the Pope and Young convention.
3 days. We're going to start what?
Yeah.
3 days before the convention starts.
Yeah.
We're going to, we can do this in 3 days.
2-3 days.
Two
We
and a
can do
half.
this, no problem. Where are we at now? We'll
Day
have what?
7?
We'll have 5 days.
That's solid.
Pretty much solid 5 days.
Yeah.
End of the deal. But we do think that we have a world record that, I mean, we literally mounted and have
24.
taxidermied 24 animals in 5 days.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's any taxidermy shops out there quite pulling that off, but we're cheated a little.
Truthfully, I think the course itself may be some type of record. I mean, I've never heard of one before, right? I
No.
mean, your idea with this whole thing is kind of tying them all together. I've never heard or seen of anything like it. So,
Yeah, when I had the idea and the thought and it all started coming together, I thought, this is something that could definitely put MAF on a different level that no one else has ever seen. As we discussed it and as we started realizing it was really coming to fruition, then I started bragging about it a little bit. And then it was like, people were like, what? You're going to what? I said, I'm going to have the first and pretty much the one and only 29 North American world record course by the records held by Pope and Young. And I'm going to travel it around and I'm going to put it together and I'm going to educate you about these animals. I'm going to teach you where these animals were shot, by whom, and we're going to do everything we can to replicate the shot, the angle, position, everything on this course. I spent a lot of time at a convention, at the Pope and Young convention last year, trying to talk to as many of these world record holders as I could to try to get that information so that we can really make this a 100% experience.
yeah, it's the way you've talked about it and told me about it. It's definitely, I mean, it's educating to me even just talking about the course. I can't imagine somebody actually getting to see the different placards with the education, about the history of each of these animals and everything with it. And like you were talking about earlier, if we could circle back a little bit to the whole Pope and Young thing, I truly didn't really I mean, I know the history of the organization, that aspect of the archery hunting in North America, but then as far as you don't really hear about the Pope and Young animals. Most of it's booners, and it's kind of a different learning experience. You always, like we were talking about earlier before we ever started recording. In my opinion, it was kind of this elitist, very stringent rules to try and become in the Pope and Young, or issues like that, and this kind of sheds a little more light on it, I think, for my generation and everybody else that doesn't know about it.
Right. I mean, consider this. A 140-inch whitetail can make the buck.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
But there's rules about that, right?
Well, it's a means of fair chase. That's it. You got to do it legally. You got to do it within, daylight hours that's been set before you by your fish and game. You got to take it with a bow, right? Right. You can't take it with any electronic sight, things like that. I mean, you can have lighted knocks, but that's something that they added a few years back. But for the most part, if you're shooting a basic bow and arrow and compound or not or whatever, and you're not using electronic sights and you're not cheating and you took that animal with ethics, then it's in the book.
Now, I always heard something about like fiber optic sights or something like that you couldn't be under it if you had fiber optics on your
correct.
sight.
You're not allowed to, you mean as long as it's not electronically
not
lit.
illuminated or battery, but
as long as it's not batteried or electronically illuminated, then you can use it. Like an HHA sight that has fiber wrapped around it, it's naturally collecting the sun and giving you a pin, no problem.
Did not know that.
Mm-hmm.
So, Philip, I kind of want to. So the targets and everything that Mountain Archery is all exclusively Kirsch targets, other than maybe a couple, right? But that's in the works to be changed. Mm-hmm. Can you give us a history on the whole Kirsch?
Yeah, sure. So Kirsch has been around for about 3 years, and we really started with a trip to ATA, searching for some products for our local vendor, trying to help them out, and saw this booth full of all kinds of animals, just gorgeous looking targets. And got to talking with the folks there. Turned out they were from Austria. They were checking out the U.S. market to potentially venture into, and the U.S. was new for them. In fact, one of them didn't speak English, and so he kind of sat in the background, and I got to know the lady Dagmar, who's the daughter-in-law for the designer for all these targets, and got to know their history. And so at the time I was working for another company, and we were importing products from Germany and Czech Republic, and I'm like, hey, I know how to import products. I know how to get you guys in here. But this is what I do, and man, these products are just so cool. I would love to be involved with this. And so we did a market study and found that, geez, there is room for a serious player for 3D archery targets, at least high quality 3D archery targets that has a big variety. And so I said, let's jump into this with both feet, and went over there and saw their factory, got to know them better, and we started bringing containers over. And so through this day, we've got a process of design development of new targets, a lot of almost all the North American species at this point in time, coming out with about one new target every month, and putting them in containers and bringing them into southeast Wisconsin, and distributing them to clubs and dealers and home users from there. And it's just what I wanted, just a fun business, fun marketplace, great people, and archery, and this Pope and Young. I didn't know the Pope and Young that well years ago, and so I got invited to this event and got to know the people, and the board. They all show up for the events. They want to talk to everybody. They want to do things with you. Say, come on over. Let's shoot some bows. Let's have some fun. And like, man, this is great. These, it's not always that way with all clubs. It's that welcoming, that extremely genuine, welcoming type of personality and feeling is what I see in the club. And I thought, boy, let's keep doing this. Let's get further. And so when Brandon started talking about such a concept of all of the North American species, I mean, I love animals, and I love horns, and I love learning about them, and every aspect about them, and what a better way to learn about them than to admire them and read about them and have some fun with them. And so it was a great match of great foam, great targets, great painting, and then boy, to mount them with these antlers.
It's something to see, and I'm excited, and I hope people that are listening to this get a chance to definitely see them. But Phil, could you tell me a little bit about, you were telling me why these are so realistic versus some of the other targets.
Yeah.
And can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, for sure. So they're designed by a gentleman by the name of Gerhard Leithold, sorry. And he's a 30-year master taxidermist, so he loves nature, he loves the animals, he loves the anatomy. He's a big game hunter, travels the world hunting. He's a guide for big game hunting in the Middle East. Even he guides too. And so 15 years ago, he started taking some of his full body taxidermy work and making molds out of them. And so for a long time, all of his targets he came out with were replicas of full body animals that he made. And so he had the passion to make them as real life as possible because they were representing somebody's real trophy. You got to give them some respect. And so these things better look good. And he took it real serious. And no skimping, no. And then his son is an engineer, and they got involved and figured out even more and more about the foam and the process and improving the processes and how to make the paint bond to the foam and how to make sure it comes out of the mold and lasts for years like it did the day it came out of the mold, as far as weather resistance, UV protection. It's got to make it in the mountains from the Alps to the Rockies. It's got to make it in the the heat of southern U.S. or Africa or anywhere in the world. It's got to make those conditions. And so they took it real serious and didn't hold back. And boy, I'm glad they did that, because the response I got from the marketplace was just like, boy, I feel very lucky. Like not being an expert getting into it, that trusting these experts, it was a good call, I think.
Definitely.
Yeah, I can tell you. I mean, they're one-piece construction, right? So they don't come apart. They don't fall apart. Just this year, they started doing what do you got? The deer and the turkey that actually have a replaceable core.
Yeah, starting to add more. We'll have a couple more coming.
But I can tell you, I've got a deer and I've got an elk that have literally been sitting in my front yard for over a year at 7,500 feet, and they were there all winter, all summer, and one of those elks is here.
Yeah, cool.
And we can go look at it.
Yeah.
That target that's in the Pope and Young course has been out on for over a year at my house getting shot. And I showed Philip. I said, "Yeah, I did a little broadhead testing."
I saw that.
But you got to look to see the slice. But it's there. But we're shooting these things with field points that heal so well, they pull so well. And they just have a great feel to them when you're shooting them and pulling and playing with them. And for me, carrying them all over a mountain.
Well, that's I noticed. I mean, there's not just one variety of elk. You've got various different body sizes, and I mean, that's a commonplace, right? You can order all of those.
Yeah, so as they kept expanding, having groupings of animals that you can have one standing, one laying, one even on hind legs, things like that, fighting, whatever it may be. So you can make scenes out of these, and as particularly archery clubs and dealers want to make it more and more interesting and move targets around, I found, man, they nailed it with this. The one piece, so the butt doesn't fall off, the head doesn't fall off. We've all seen and had frustrations with that. So, man, they really figured this out. Like, all the credit to them, because it works. You can
set up that fighting deer with this standing mountain lion. Look at this standing mountain lion right there. Look at his eyes and his teeth and his tongue. I mean, that is the coolest as
It's
could
pretty
be,
cool.
right? And so you can have a buck with his head down, like in a fighting position, with this lion standing there like he's trying to get to this thing, or even coming at a deer from behind. We did that last year. And then my other trick is to set up a deer. And then you set him up about 9 yards behind the deer, but he looks like he's right there on the deer. And so when they shoot, they don't realize the visual aspect. You can't tell the difference in the yardage
Now
between
you
the
just
two
gave
animals.
that away, though. So
Well,
anybody,
anybody that wants to range it can figure it out. But it's just kind of neat, because then you sit there and you look at it, you're like, wow, that mountain lion's that far behind it. It's kind of fun.
So that brings up a question then. So Pope and Young, as far as ruling goes, can you use a rangefinder?
Yes.
Okay. This is all new to me. But
Yeah, you can use a rangefinder. Mm-hmm.
So you can use a rangefinder. So like some electronics are considered.
It's really, they just don't. The idea is they just want to keep. You can use a rangefinder to range, but it's as far as having electronics on the bow, they just want to give that animal a fair chance, and that's kind of where the comment fair chase comes from. We want to give the animal a fair chase, and when we take that animal, we want it to be because we strove to be our very best to beat an animal in its bedroom, right?
Yeah.
And that we accomplish that. That we're kind of on a level playing field, right?
Yeah. So let's talk about the Mountain Archery Fest and how many targets. What do you have set up? You've got your Pope and Young course, and then you've got what?
We've got 5 more courses past that, so we have 6 courses on them. We're actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So yeah, 6. Wow. I'm 2 weeks away from having an event, and I don't even know how many courses I have. I have 6, but basically we have 5 full-blown courses. And then we have a kids course, which is only like a dozen animals set up. But we'll have about 160 targets total between our practice range and all of our courses. And we've got the Pope and Young 29 is the longest one. Then we've got a base map course. They're basically all named after sponsors this year. So we got base map course, which is our competition course, and it's kind of always at the base. So there's always one course that we can push people out, and you don't have to go up on the ski resort, up the lift. And then we got 4 more courses that come down the mountain, and they all range from beginner all the way to completely crazy and advanced, like our cryptic course. And so our cryptic course it's almost, I call it my stupid course, because it's the one that's going to teach you what you're really ethically not capable of doing. Because everything's 60 to 130 yards, tight windows, 12s or nothing, tons of lost arrows, tons of brutal steepness, length, slopes, tight spots. And then I always throw a couple in there that you really can't make. If you stand at that pin, you cannot make it unless you are a master of deflection. So basically, that's just to give you an idea that on that course that there's a couple that you can't make. So you're going to stand there, you're going to ponder it, and eventually you're going to say, I've got to move to make this ethical shot. And that's one of those things that you have to learn sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Because sometimes we get frozen and we feel like we have to make a shot, like it's now or never on this animal. But yet there's something in the way that's going to keep you from doing that, to where you may wound the animal, or you may, you may not hit it at all, right? So I tried to mix that course up to where, that there's every course on the mountain has a purpose. So each one, whether it's educational, like the Pope and Young course, and just fascinating and amazing, but then the other courses are kind of set up to where one's kind of a fantasy course. Like, it's stuff that you'll probably never shoot in your life for real. It's stuff from Asia and Africa and some different things that, that kind of, that you just don't get to shoot and see very often. And then there's a course that's kind of your Western big game course, right? And then that's kind of, it's your standard stuff that you're going to catch in the West. And then, last year we had a train to hunt course. We don't have one this year, but there's pieces of Mountain Archery Fest within this that we love to have a physical challenge side to it. And this year we have the Baku Western Challenge, and it's kind of a physical challenge, and there's some e-bike riding and physical challenge and e-bike riding, and your shooting kind of changes on this. So we got everything, man. I mean, even our competition, I got 9 divisions in each competition. I mean, I got Olympic recurve. I got men's and women's separate divisions. I got pro all the way down, barebow, you name it. I got
all around.
I got everything. Yep. I got everything you'd want to do. And then, of course, we've got the Full Draw Eastman's film night on Friday night, and then we got the Pope and Young pint night on Saturday night. And, we just really try to celebrate the sport of archery. I have something for every discipline, every age, and every ability. There's no reason why you can't come there and learn the sport, get to know people in conservation, from local DNRs to BHA to SCI, state chapters, local bow hunting clubs. There's so many people there for so many reasons and we just come there collectively for the sport of archery, and we celebrate it, and we have a great time.
Yeah, I think hopefully you get one here in the Midwest as well. I know I'm wanting it. I'm pretty sure you want one too, Philip.
You know it.
Yeah. Bring it here wherever we can get it. But
we're working on coming east next year.
Okay.
I won't drop it like it's hot, like where I'm going, but I've been in talks with 4 places basically in the Midwest, and way southeast, and so we'll just kind of wait and see how that schedule can blend together. We'll be working on that schedule real hard in August and finalizing some of those dates, and we'll have some announcements in September. But we'll be launching new sites in the Midwest and different stuff by October 1st of this year.
So I want to ask you about, because you and I talked about it a little bit earlier, and it's a pretty cool concept with the whole base map thing and how that ties into the shoot. It's pretty cool. I'd like you to talk about it.
Yeah,
because that's something I've never seen something quite like that.
Yeah, so that's kind of the two good drops we have this year, right? Is this Pope and Young course and how epic it is, and absolutely amazing it is. And the other thing that we have, we got kids ready to go on scooters, man. We're a family event around here.
Absolutely.
Let them roll. But I want to see him jump the ramp.
Hey,
Don't tempt him, huh?
it doesn't take twice.
But the base map deal is pretty awesome. I don't know if people are familiar with base map, but they're a phone mapping service similar to the X. And we sat down and talked to them about a little more than a year ago, and I said, I got this really cool idea. Is it possible to be able to map out all of our courses on base map, have a picture, have a pin position, have a target position, have a description or picture of the target, like I said, and a yardage already in at the pin for every course. Be able to have a legend for Mountain Archery Fest on the mountain as well. And then, can we offer that subscription for free so that when people come to the event, they can download your app for free for 7 days, and while they're at the event, they can use that mapping system to work my courses and enjoy the event without me having to hand them paper slips that have a legend or directions or whatever. In fact, if you already have base map, starting Thursday morning before each event, you will be able to pull it up and you'll know where you're going. You'll know where the lodge is. You'll know where camping is already. You'll know where RV camping is. You'll know where everything's at. But they were like, they kind of hemmed and hawed a little bit. They weren't sure if it was possible. So then by the time we got to ATA, Jeff said, yeah, we're in. We think we found a way to, for you to be able to do it and for us to back end it. And, we'll be able to accomplish it. If you can accomplish this in this amount of time and you can get it to us on a certain time, then we can do what we need to do on our side. So there's a lot of pressure on me to get these courses set by Wednesday night and of each event and make it happen. But the other cool piece to the puzzle that came about since those discussions is that if you're familiar with base map, they do a weekly gear drop. And so
I want to talk about that real quick because
lay it out there.
I recently started using base map, trying it out, and I like it. Haven't had a whole lot of time to actually play with it even more, and I'm looking forward to use it during hunting season. I didn't have it during any of my spring scouting, but so I started doing the gear drop. I discovered that they had the gear drop thing on there, and I've been seeing a couple posts on the base map on Instagram and different social media things. And I sent you the link in order, because you can actually get more drops, more chances to win their prize. And I sent you one, and you messaged me back and go, what do I need that for? I already did it.
Well, yeah, what did you send this to me for? And I was like, and then no sooner than you said, well, I need another pin. I was like, oh, right. That makes sense.
Yeah. But so talk about those drops that it's pretty cool what you guys are doing with that too.
So I suggest anybody that listens to go to Base Map, download the app for free for 7 days, play gear drop. They give away anywhere from like 500 to 1,000, and every now and then they did a Gunworks rifle. I mean, that thing was $2,500. And so they drop some cool stuff. But what they do is they pick like a wilderness area at this point, and they put an imaginary pin somewhere in that wilderness area, and then they give you about 3 or 4 clues as to where that pin could be. And then you get one pin just for playing. They give you a pin to drop, and you got to kind of look at the clues and find a spot within that area and drop your pin. It's no different than if someone said, yes, I have a spot picked out on this map, and you're going to poke it with a pin, and you're going to guess my spot. Here's the clues, right? So, but then along through it, you can watch a video about whoever the prize is being given away by, and to get another pin, you can share it on social media, get another pin. You can send an email, get another pin. Yep. So there's some different things, some cool tools there. And the cool part about this relationship with MAF is that the week of each event, we will be doing a pin drop within the Mountain Archery Festival event. So a much tighter area and then we're giving, and then the sponsors of Mountain Archery Fest are going to be giving away some cool stuff. So, for instance, the first week we have Initial Ascent and Vortex giving away some stuff. Initial Ascent Pack Company and Vortex Glass, and then the next week we have PSE Bow and HHA Rest and Sight, maybe a cutter stabilizer with those guys hopefully, and then the third week we've got a bunch of stuff being given away: a hat and a shirt by Publicly Challenged. We have some Phelps game calls. We got Pyro Putty. We've got phone scope stuff. We've got just a mega packet accessory package that we're giving away that third week. And then on the fourth week, I'm going to throw Philip under the bus here, but on the fourth week, Philip's probably going to donate a target. And then we're going to give away
rock and roll.
We're going to give away.
I don't have to think too much about that.
Okay.
What target are you going to give away, though, Philip? Do you have to think about that?
I may have to think about that.
Yeah, he's going to. How do you feel about that?
A full size.
Let me think about that.
A Yukon moose. Maybe a Yukon moose.
I'll come back to you on that.
Yeah, probably not. But I think, and then alongside his target, we're going to give away a weekend for two to MAF in 21. So you'll have a full weekend for two people, 3-day pass. You get to come really enjoy the whole mountain, everything we have to offer. And before you come, you get a chance to shoot at a high quality curse target and get to know that you're going to get to go shoot 160 more of those bad boys, right?
Yeah.
So we think that's just a match made in heaven for our last one to celebrate a great season and getting everybody kind of going. So we're excited about all the relationships we've got with all the sponsors, and if like I say, if you don't have base map, you gotta do that for sure.
Yeah, it's I don't know, and it seems like the more I'm paying attention to it, the more it keeps developing, and I'm just getting more and more excited to see it all come out and come into fruition, because it's pretty neat what's going on here, what's happening, especially when you are the first repeat guest I've had on this podcast.
Hey, all right. And this is your first.
Yeah, so it's live with you.
Live.
And
remote.
Yeah. Right. Remote up here in Wisconsin.
Beautiful
Wisconsin. Not too far from my grandma's house. Kind of interesting. I was like, no way. When you told me you were up there, I was like, I know where that's at. That's
right down the street.
Super close. Yeah. World headquarters. Didn't even know it existed. But I think we need to try and get George on here and talk a little bit.
We came up here and we came up here and podcasted. They were drinking beer, and George, the mad scientist, is still slaving away. Man. We took a cool picture the other night in the sunset on the deck of Lily's
Lily Lake Resort.
Lily Lake Resort, yep. And I labeled it me as the event director, and George is the mad scientist, and Philip is the target man. Man, we've had a good time.
It rings true over and over with this development this week. The mad scientist, this guy has so many ideas on top of ideas on top of, and they're great, and they come from, I don't know. He's been repairing targets for 20, 30 years. I don't remember. It loses me sometimes, but professionally, traveling the country, repairing targets, and so literally seeing thousands of clubs, or well over 1,000 clubs, and almost every target on the planet he's seen. And so that's when I met him, and I've known him a couple of years, but when Brandon brought up this Pope and Young project, I know the guy that can help us build these. This guy knows.
What was funny was he told me all about George, right? And then when we went to ATA, he tells me, "Well, you're going to be rooming with George."
This guy George.
And I was like, "Oh, okay." So I show up at the hotel, and George is there. And then it was like, we talked to. I got in late, and so we talked briefly. There were a few minutes probably, but then it was like suddenly like the light bulb went off in my head, and I was like, "You're George the target guy? Like,
oh yeah,
you're the mad chemist around here. You're the mad scientist." And it was like, holy crap! Like, this is the guy. And he's like, oh yeah, that's me. And I was just like, wow, how'd this all come together like this? Like, this is every time, it's just all, it just keeps working out, man.
Yeah.
You know, this whole thing keeps working out. So it's just impressive. All right, who's giving? You're gonna give it. Okay, Philip's gonna give up a set for George here.
So when I pulled up, you were pretty busy, and I started talking to George, and the first thing I noticed was these are not your typical antlers and horns on these animals. And I was like, man, that's some serious support. And then I said, how are you supporting these? And George goes, oh, well, first I had this idea, and we're going to do that, but then it was wood. And I was like, man, I want the lifetime of these targets to be a lot longer than it should, that it could be with the wood, and going back and forth. And he's like, then I had it, and I figured it out. And he's explaining to me the anchor system that he came up with and the different the way he injected it. And I'm like, that's smart. That's some good stuff.
Introduce yourself, George. Introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm George from 3D Country. I've been working in the archery industry ever since '90. I've been involved with the local clubs, and then the first 3D targets came to our area, and I was always really interested. It was like Christmas. We opened up all these boxes, and there's targets, Remember the club talked about, what are you going to do with them? And they had all young kids and stuff like that. And at that time in the 90s, it was like everything was battery operated. I says, well, we'll throw some batteries in them. We'll let them run around, and we get to shoot at them. But the 3D targets were just the start of it. And they would start getting shot up, and you couldn't score them. And at that time, we had 147 league shooters shooting the targets. And it was like, they started getting shot up, and this is, well, we just throw this midsection away and order a new one. It says, you can't throw that away. I couldn't see that. So that was always an interest of mine, to repair the targets.
So then tell them a little bit about how you actually started doing that and how it works.
Well, I repair the club's targets, and I started doing other ranges because I was a guy that could repair some targets. And there were places that weren't going to open if I didn't guarantee I'd repair their targets for them. So I knew there was something valuable there, and did a whole association. There were 16 clubs. I did all their targets, and then 1999, I walked into a local shop in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and it's the Heath Brothers, and
1999.
yeah.
Did I just date myself a little Prince
A little
of the Revolution
bit there,
there?
Sure. And he had quite a league. He had 600 shooters. 600 arrows would strike each target each night.
Holy cow.
Yeah. And I came in there with a Delta standing bear, the one that looks like it's taking a leak, if you see it.
Yep.
And it had real light foam in it then, and I repaired the center of it, and they shot that at 20 yards, and after 600 arrows, there was a pencil eraser size of foam missing out of the center 11 ring on on that target. And the owner walks up to me and he says, "You're going to be a millionaire." And
Well, you are a millionaire. You got to do it for family and grandkids, right?
oh yeah,
You're rich as could be.
Yeah, and it just the archery industry is just
Yeah.
spectacular. I just love the travels.
When we sat around the other night, man, he's talking about, you're talking about clubs from back in the day I think when they were a lot more shooters probably, and it just was a different time, right, of archery.
Oh yeah, they would dress up, on Sunday afternoons, and they would be white shirts, and just like they came back out of church or whatever, they come out dressed up and they shot lemonwood longbows. I mean, I see a field full of them. It's just like, wow, that was way back when. And then the clubs, from where I'm from, O'Connell River Bowman was a old one, Deeper Sportsman's Club. That area is where I'm from.
Yeah.
So you offer repair kits that someone can do it themselves as well, right?
Yes, everything to do with target repairs, even to paint your targets, anything to keep your targets in shape. We make and sell all of it, and I help anyone that's interested to do their own, and I'll even come by and repair, and we have other repair techs around the country that use my tools and materials.
So talk a little bit about the repair kits, because you were telling me, and it's pretty interesting the way that works, how you bore the hole and you.
Yeah, we core them out, and the new system uses molds, and we've developed molds for most of the major brands of targets. And you can order a set of molds, and they're reusable. And they have the 10 rings and all the scoring rings and all the hair detail and the muscle all right in it. It takes a good eye to look at that target to actually realize it's a repaired target. And I guarantee twice the life on any target that I repair.
Yeah, it's legit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Watching this whole process was something.
This has been,
yeah. I mean, like even to speak like how much he's done. He was telling me about that reciprocating saw that you had for how long? That you're like, I think this thing has probably done 10,000 targets or more.
Oh yeah, yeah. My old
and it was
one,
still alive.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about the miles he's put on, traveling to all these clubs. You think about all the targets, all the people, all the archers, all the presidents, all the people that he's been around, and for 30 years.
99, yeah. So 20, yeah. 30 years, yeah.
30 years.
Wow.
31 years. Wow, we're doing math here, ladies and gentlemen.
Wow, yeah.
So when it all kind of came about, Philip was like, I know the guy. Right?
Yeah.
No,
Philip.
And Philip was like, I know the guy. And we just, and then here I am in that hotel room, right? And I was just like, hello. You're George. You're the mad scientist of it all. How'd you guys meet? How did you meet?
Boy,
Philip, how did you and
oh, you
George
know
meet?
how?
I
called
do
you
know.
One day. I called you.
I know.
So over the years, so for the last 10 years, I've been trying to. I love learning about markets and trying to become an expert. Trying, right? And so I was picking a lot of people's brain. And there's a fantastic archery club here in Southeast Wisconsin called Buck Rub Outfitters,
Mm-hmm.
and the owner of that is Kaz, and I got to know Kaz, and always picking his brain because he's like George. He's got so much history from the sport of archery and from hunting, and so I thought, man, the more I can learn from him, the better. And we were talking about targets, and I launched this business for 3D archery targets, and Kaz is like, I know somebody that used to work for me that. You should get in touch with him. And so Kaz gave me George's number. I'm like, some guy in Alabama, really? What's this all about? I gotta learn more. And so I called George, and one thing, things move fast. Probably,
Mm-hmm.
I learned about his business and was shocked to know that that there was a business like this that I thought that's fantastic. It makes sense. And so we met and we just kept rolling with it. And with these targets being one piece from nose to tail, I'm like, this is the guy I gotta tie myself to and learn from, and so I'm always ears open with George.
Oh yeah, and Philip's awesome for a guy to meet, and I've gone to the ATA show together and just learn both sides of the business, and he's got a wonderful family here as well, and it's just been very inviting. We spent quite a bit of time together and. Working on the targets and discussing everything to go with the target.
So, once again, just kind of tell everybody your business, who you are, and
George Verhoek from 3D Country, and like we discussed earlier, I've been repairing targets for 40 years and 30 years with my foam.
So if somebody wants to find you or look you up for their club or something like that, they can just type in, what is it, 3D Country?
3-dcountry.com, and that's 3D Country, yes.
And then Philip, you
KirschHunting.com.
KirschHunting.com. And it's more than just targets as well, right? There's other products that we probably don't have a whole lot of time to talk about, but
no. So our business is it's targets launched it. We added a bloodhound tracking knock for game recovery and closing that gap of lost animals out there. And so that was for 2020 here, and there's other things in the works, and over the years we're going to continue expanding with other product lines and building from what we have.
it's pretty interesting to see everything go down. Pretty excited to see how it all pans out. Brandon, Everybody knows Mountain Archery Fest, where to find you.
Yeah.
If they don't, hit me up, look it up, whatever. We'll get you there.
Yeah, mountainarcheryfest.com, and Instagram, same thing, Mountain Archery Fest, Facebook, etc. So we really look forward to people making a journey to come out and see us wherever you're at. Give me a call if there's anything I can do. DM me. Let me know if there's something we can do to help get you to an event. We're just always willing to see other people out on the mountain and enjoy the sport of archery, and watching people smile and learning and educating themselves, and just really being expressive about who we all are. We're just all amazing people in this industry. We all help each other. We help each other grow personally and in business, and we're all family in some way or another, and it's just exciting to bring everybody together and be on the same page. And I can't say enough about you coming up here and hanging out with us, and you helping us today, and this team that's sitting here right now is one of a kind. We've accomplished something this week that no one else has ever seen, and it has ever been done. And I'm just really proud of these guys being there for me. Our friendships are growing, and I'm not easy to work with. I'm all over the place, and I'm a perfectionist, almost to fault. And but we're all three pretty proud of each other.
Oh yeah.
It's
been a blessing.
Yeah, it's been a blessing being here, and we appreciate you sharing this out on the podcast, and we just really look forward to the listeners reaching out to the three of us so that we can make their experiences in archery better, more fun, and more long-lasting, and just really building from within, from the kids in this sport and the families, and continuing to move it forward. So thanks so much for having us.
Yeah, thanks for being on. And I think, our passion for the sport, for the hunting in general, all of those aspects are what really probably tie us all together. And it's good to have you guys on. Thank you so much for coming on and doing this.
Thank you for being out here. Yes.
Yep. All right. That's a wrap. And once again, thank you so much for listening to the Publicly Challenged podcast. I hope you enjoyed the show, and if you did, please subscribe on whatever platform it is you're listening to. Also, if you could leave a review, that would help us out. And you can check us out on Instagram or at publiclychallenged.com. And once again, thank you so much for listening to the show.